Good evening and welcome. I am Gimba Omar. Tonight, calmness returns to Arepo in Ogun State after a series of bombardments by the military targeting militants that have been terrorizing the community. 6 of the 13 escapees from Kotokarfe are back in custody as the Comptroller General of Prisons assures of increased security across the nation's prisons. Accusations and counter-accusations continue to trail the House of Representatives over allegations of budget padding by the former chairman, House Committee on Appropriation, Abdul Mumin Jibrin. And mother of a dead U.S. Muslim soldier hits back at presidential candidate Donald Trump for questioning her silence during the speech by her husband. We'll begin tonight with efforts by government forces to tackle militancy in Arepo community in Obafemi Owode local government area of Ogun State, where calm has returned after soldiers contained the activities of suspected militants there. A visit to the troubled local council shows residents are going about their daily activities without any hindrance. Some residents who commented on this development asked that the exercise be sustained.
Arepo, a border town between Lagos and Ogun State, has been in the news lately following incessant attacks on residents by alleged militants. Last Thursday, however, the residents were faced with another wave of fear.
I was coming back from work on Thursday when I saw a warplane on air. My fear was that I'm going to experience a plane crash. But later I discovered it was for a security purpose. So later I had a sound of bomb. Everybody were running for cover while the military were jetting up to go for their normal things. Some of them were running down to the cliff while others entered into their armored and other of their distance with their bulletproof jacket.
Following that incident, the community has been almost entirely deserted for fear of the unknown. Even the seat of the community's traditional ruler is under lock. For those who've decided to stay back, caution is the word as they go about their day-to-day activities.
From yesterday to today now, everywhere has been a bit okay. At least they assured us that everywhere is calm and that we should just stay indoor and there is no problem attached to it. So since then we have been just peaceful and praying that nothing really happens to us.
For now, residents are hoping the military will be able to end the attacks by the militants and sustain the relative peace in the community.
Six of the 13 escapees from Kotokarfe prison in Kogi State have been rearrested. This was announced today by the Director of Media at the Ministry of Interior, Mr. Willie Bassi. Earlier, the Kogi State Governor, Mr. Yahaya Bello, raised an alert over what he calls a threat to the state following yesterday's prison break. This is the third time inmates have successfully broken out of that prison, raising concerns on the level of security within the premises.
I don't need any soothsayer to tell me that is there compromise in what has happened. The third time and no concrete steps taken to stop the occurrence of incidents of this nature. So surely there is a compromise. And then the controller is not around. The officer in charge were now around. No serious senior officials on ground to take me around to see what has happened. All I see here is a picture of a hole that was bored, in the wall. So surely there is a serious compromise in this. That's why I'm calling on federal government that we must collaborate together and investigate this. And I want to believe that serious disciplinary action should be taken against these officials, both officers and men that was, supposed to be in charge of this place.
The Kaduna State Government has released a report of the Judicial Commission of Inquiry set up by the state government to investigate the cause of the December 12, 2015 bloody clash between the Nigerian Army and members of the Islamic movement in Nigeria. The report, which was released by the spokesman of the state governor, Samuel Aruwan, says that members of the Islamic movement are responsible for the clash and its liabilities. The Commission therefore recommends that trial of army personnel that were involved in extrajudicial killings of IMN members, as well as IMN members who took part in the killing of an army officer during the incident, be done. The report, which was signed by all the members of the Commission, also cautioned the Nigerian Army to carry out its operations in line with the rules of engagement in order to avert collateral damages. The report also recommends that such future operations by security agencies should be recorded in video form. The Commission also recommends that the police and other security agencies should be adequately trained to deal with civil disturbances in order to avoid a situation of dragging the armed forces into such matters. Joining me on the news at 10 is Colonel Stan Labo to have a perspective look at the prison situation in Kogi State, as well as all the security challenges being faced, and of course the latest information that we're getting from the panel of inquiry into the Shiite army clash. I want to thank you so much indeed for coming on the news at 10.
Thank you.
Let's begin from Kogi State. It's the third time this is happening, not the first.
Yeah.
And the governor is already suspicious that compromise has taken place. Do you suppose that under the prevailing circumstances he has a point?
Yes, I smell culpability too, I must be frank. Because this is one too many, frankly. And we all listen to the governor. There is nothing we can say. Look, whoever, those in charge of the security of the prisons must make sure they do their job. Prisons come under the Ministry of Interior. I think the minister would have to address these issues very well. It is one too many, and I'm beginning to smell some level of culpability on the part of law enforcement agents.
Quite recently, matter of fact, the Nigerian prisons went under reforms, as the government puts it, from the Interior Ministry. Do you suppose that the reforms have better sanitized the prison system in Nigeria today?
I think we are yet to see that. Frankly, we are yet to see that, because if it has, why do we still have some of these developments? And besides, it's not just we having what I would call paper reforms. There are lots of things that should take place in our prisons. So enough of all this escapee news we keep getting. Okay, a lot of structural reforms, even with the buildings, need to take place. Okay, when you visit some of our prisons, frankly speaking, you will now tell yourself, no wonder we have so much news coming out of these places. Okay, the security needs to be reinforced before we even talk of what goes on within the prison itself. Ours today is a situation where you send in somebody into the prison and he comes out far more hardened than the way he went in.
Let's look at the situation in Areko, where the government forces are fighting suspected militants there. Do you suppose that the government has taken the right step, having held back in the Niger Delta region against the militants there? The same militants are in Areko area and they have been bombarded. What's your thoughts along that line?
The Areko issue, frankly speaking, if you want to get my opinion, I will tell you even that government is going in there late. I was in charge of OP-MESA in this same Lagos State for about 3 years, from 2008 to 2010 as the operations officer. I know the level of fire exchange we've always had with these guys in Areko. And of course, reports have always gone right up to the strategic level where we where we expect the sort of action we are seeing today to have been taken. To me, it's even belated, but well, we thank God that we even have a leadership today that has got the political will to carry what we are seeing out, you know. And I think with the steps we are taking here, I think we need to see, we shall see a lot of improvements. Because those guys there were actually becoming law unto themselves in Areko.
Caution, though, must not be thrown to the wind, you know,
yeah, right,
just so that people who are innocent residents there are not affected in this face-off between the military and the militants there. What would you say is an appropriate approach to resolve these issues?
The appropriate approach?
Yes.
To resolving the issues? I expect to see community leaders getting involved in what's happening. I think the community leaders are not doing enough. They coexist with these criminals. What are they doing to help government? And of course, help the entire nation. This is it. You can't be living in midst of criminals, and when this sort of actions take place, you want to turn around and blame government. What have you done yourself? What have you done? I mean, the nation cannot be strangulated by criminals. The entire federal port is empty because another batch of criminals who call themselves politicians or leaders in the past have swept or emptied the ports. Here we are faced with a situation where government does not have money to run the country. 27 states today, as we speak, cannot pay salaries to workers. This government cannot be held to ransom. Something has got to be done. And I'm very impressed with what is going on. That's why, like you said about the militants in the Niger Delta, I will advise them seriously to capitalize on government's, what's it called now, expansion of the frontiers of negotiations, okay, and exploit it by going to the negotiating table and place all their demands and so on. But if they continue the way they are going, I am afraid they should be looking at what's happening in Arepo. That should let them know it could happen to you.
Okay, interesting. Let's take a look at this latest report from the Kaduna State Government Judicial Commission of Inquiry into the Army-Shiite clash. Now, what's your immediate impression now that this report has been released?
Well, my impression is that I think the state government is taking the right steps. I want us to understand something. Boko Haram, Metesine, or what have you, this was the same footsteps some of them took. If you had visited Zaria, I never schooled in Ahmadu Bello University, but I had a lot of colleagues who schooled there. Frankly speaking, this IMN or the Shiites are a law unto themselves. There is a particular part of Zaria completely, that is under their control.
What about the Commission's recommendations now? It has recommended that the trial of Army personnel that were involved in the extrajudicial killings of the IMN members, as well as IMN members who also participated in the killing of the Army officers during the incident, both of them should face punishment.
Well, let them be tried. If that is the case, let them be tried. But I believe wise counsel will come into bear in the way most of these things are carried out. But let them be tried, and let's see what comes out of the trial. All right? Let's see what comes out of the trial.
Many thanks indeed, Colonel Stan Labo, for talking to us on the News at 10 on these very important security issues. Many thanks indeed for coming on the News at 10.
I appreciate it.
At least 23,000 bags of assorted food items and 2,155 bags of shelter supplies have been given to internally displaced persons staying in displaced camps in the northeast. Well, that's according to the Senior Special Assistant on Media and Publicity to the President in the Office of the Vice President, Mr. Olaolu Akonde. He explains this as part of the federal government's immediate response to ease the sufferings of the IDPs. Mr. Akonde notes that under the coordinated federal government's program, both the Presidential Initiative on Northeast and National Emergency Management Agency are leading the humanitarian aid with the distribution of 10,300 bags of assorted grains and cereals to over 2 million persons. Last week, the United Nations Children Emergency Fund said about 250,000 children are likely to suffer from acute malnutrition in 2016 if nothing is done to ameliorate the situation. In part two, after the break, Governor Willie Obiano flags off the campaign for APGA candidates in the forthcoming Edo State governorship elections. That's coming up in a moment. Stay with us.